This is the Ford Puma, but you already knew that, didn't you? Because as Britain's best-selling car, these things are everywhere. The question I want to answer today is, should they be? Before that, a quick history lesson. The Puma started out life in the late 90s as a two-door coupe based on the Ford Fiesta. Although it lasted just one generation, the little Puma was so good that when Ford decided almost 2 decades later to reissue the name for a 5-door crossover, people got quite upset. Or some people anyway. Fact is, most people didn't really care, did they? And that is perhaps why Ford has been plundering its back catalogue of legendary names ever since. Anyway, the Puma. A feisty little ST model joined the lineup a little bit later on, and then in 2024 the whole range was facelifted into what we have here, and then this year a fully electric Gen E model was also introduced. The car we have here though is actually pretty typical of what most people are buying and what makes the Puma the best-selling car in the UK. It is a 1-litre turbocharged mild hybrid 3-cylinder engine, 125 horsepower, and finished in popular ST line specification. Visually, the latest Puma looks much like the original crossover, albeit now with upgraded LED headlights and the Ford badge moved from the bonnet to the grille. It's a stretch to call it particularly stylish, but nor is it a bad-looking car. At 4.2 metres long, the Puma sits right in the heartland of the compact crossover class. It is a rival for cars like the Renault Captur and the Nissan Juke, but actually where it does really well is in boot space. So I mean, you look at that and you'd think, well, that's not a particularly big boot, but that's because it's got an adjustable height boot floor and it adjusts by good amounts. So if you slide that down, all of a sudden this is a really big boot, 456 litres. And it doesn't end there because you've got the mega box as well. Look at that. This clips up here and you've got another 80 litres of space under there. It does have a plug hole, you can rinse it out and all that sort of stuff, but actually I found this is just really useful for putting an extra bag or an extra case or a couple of kids' scooters in their helmets. It's just really useful. It means that the Puma genuinely could be your only family car. There's also a little 12-volt socket there, there's a couple of bag hooks. The rear seats fold 60/40, and the parcel shelf is just a sort of flimsy affair, but actually it works perfectly well. For boot space, this thing is pretty awesome actually. Okay, so doors open nice and wide, so if you've got car seats you want to get in, that's fine. And also because the ride height is that little bit higher, that makes it a little bit easier to get car seats in than it would be in, say, a Focus or a Fiesta. Now this is based on a Fiesta, so probably manage expectations a little bit about how much space we have back here. I'm 5'11", this is set for me, and I mean you can see my knees are touching the back of the seat in front. My feet actually have lots of room underneath the seat. It's fine, it's not the biggest car in its class for rear seat space. Something like a Skoda Kamiq has more room. It also doesn't get sliding rear bench like you have in a Renault Captur. Yeah, so not the roomiest, but if you've got a couple of kids, it's going to be okay. Up in the front of the Puma, you will see more of the upgrades that were made for that 2024 facelift. The most obvious of which are these screens. This is a 12-inch central infotainment screen. It's actually pretty good. It runs Ford's Sync 4 software. The graphics are sharp enough, and actually what's really good is the icons are all pretty big. It also comes with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, which is all wireless, which is great. And although the heating controls are now in the screen, which is something we often criticise new cars for, at least they're always on display here. So they're, pretty quick to get to. This larger touchscreen is paired with a 12.8-inch digital readout in place of the dials. This looks smart and is easy enough to navigate via physical buttons on the steering wheel. What I would say about this whole setup, which while it looks very nice, it does also give you this new steering wheel design, which not only has a flat bottom, but also a flat top. And for me personally, I'm not so keen on the way it feels as you pass it through your hands. That aside, I think this interior is pretty smart. Certainly in this ST line trim, you get some nice little red stitching across here. Material quality wise, it's very Ford-like, which is to say, all feels very solid. There are some, harder plastics, but they're a bit textured. I think it actually comes together quite nicely. And, there's a couple of cup holders, some little cubby down here. You could put your key in. Glove box is a decent size, and you get more storage under the armrest here. So it's pretty practical. Driving position's good, whether you want to go nice and low and feel a bit sportier, or perch yourself a bit higher for more of an SUV feel. But generally speaking, it's really good in the front. far so good for the Puma then. But what about the way it drives? Well, as we said, this one has the 1 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder engine with mild hybrid assistance at 125 horsepower. Now, mild hybrids these days, some of them you actually don't really notice that they're there, and some of them, like the new systems from Stellantis and that you get in Audis, are actually capable of a surprising amount of engine off running. The Ford sits in between those two. You definitely know it's there, but you don't really get much engine off running. It'll sometimes switch off as you come to a stop. But when I say you know it's there, what I mean is when you put your foot down, you can feel a little bit of electric boost, essentially electric motor boosting performance. And when you lift off, you get brake regen. It's actually a really quite a nice way to boost the performance of this car, and you have to admire Ford for a 1 litre engine. I mean, it's pretty remarkable what this thing will do. Specifically, this powertrain configuration can get you from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 9.6 seconds, while the top speed is 118 miles per hour, all perfectly respectable for a small crossover. The 7-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox is also really good. It's very responsive, it changes quickly, it's nice and smooth. The only thing I would say is you don't get any manual overrides. There's no paddles behind the steering wheel, and you can't even flick the gear lever back and forward to change up and down the gears, which seems a bit of a shame given that this car is quite sporty to drive. There is a sport setting where it holds onto ratios for longer, but it's just not quite the same as having manual control. That said, it does give you good access to the Puma's performance, and like I've said, this is quite a punchy engine, and put your foot down and it makes a pretty good noise too. Fuel economy is pretty respectable too, with Ford claiming between 48 and 52 miles per gallon on the combined cycle. We've actually seen 50 miles per gallon on long motorway runs, and overall have managed 48 miles per gallon in a week of mixed driving. Ford pairs this punchy power unit with a really sweet ride and handling balance. So this car is the ST line. It's on 17-inch alloy wheels, and as an ST line it gets sport suspension versus the slightly softer suspension that you get with the titanium model. But actually, you know, you do feel some high frequency bumps a bit more, but generally speaking, the ride on this is perfectly fine. And for my tastes, you know, it's kind of bang on where I'd want it to be, which is to say, really perfectly tolerable for around town driving. But when you want to go a bit faster on country roads and things, the body control is actually very good. There's a little bit of body roll in corners, but not so much that it would bother you. And overall, what the Puma does really well, it has nicely weighted steering, and it turns in quickly, and then you can actually adjust it a little bit on the throttle, and there are not many small crossovers you can say that about. Overall, it's just a really good fun car to drive. It's kind of Ford doing what it does best. A side note at this point to say that the fully electric Puma Gen E generally shares all these traits and benefits from more performance. Do be aware, however, that its ride is a little firmer than you get with the petrol Puma. Regardless of whether you go for petrol or electric, what really strikes you about the Puma is the sense of completeness that it has about it, the same way that it does with a Fiesta or a Focus or a Mondeo. There's just something very well honed about this car. It gels. And go Ford for putting buttons on the steering wheel to control the active safety system. So if you want to turn off the speed limit warning, you just hold down the limiter button. If you want to turn off the lane assist, you double tap the lane button. Brilliant. The Puma then is proof that while we might question Ford's decision at times when it comes to its strategy around electric cars and relaunching old nameplates as rebadged VWs, this brand does still know how to build really good cars. I started this video by asking the question, should the Puma be Britain's best-selling car? And you know, I think it should. It's got that desirability, it drives brilliantly, it's affordable, it just has the magic that Ford, you know, is kind of known for doing. It used to do so well. This Puma, it's a great small crossover, it's a great Ford, and actually it's just a great car, full stop. It's no wonder it's so popular. On that note, don't forget to check out CarGurus.co.uk to find great deals on the Ford Puma. And if you enjoyed this review, hit that subscribe button for more.